Sit back. Let your thoughts quiet down. Maybe you have a drink beside you, maybe a small snack. Lean back, take a deep breath. Tonight, we're traveling to another world. A world where honor and death walk side by side. A world where a single wrong word could seal your fate. Welcome to the Japan of the samurai. The night is still. Only the distant whisper of wind through the pines tells you that somewhere high in the mountains, snow is falling. Before you lies a narrow path lined with stone lanterns, their dim light barely pushing back the darkness. You wear simple clothes, straw sandals on your feet, each step crunching against the frozen earth. In the distance, the silhouette of a gate emerges. A torii, painted red, weathered by rain. Beyond it lies the village, a dozen low wooden houses, thatched roofs, sliding doors. Smoke rises from one of the houses, but the scent of food is faint. You know the rice stores are nearly empty. Winter has been harsh, and every bite must be rationed carefully. You are not a samurai. You are not a lord. You are a farmer, which means your life does not belong to you. It belongs to the daimyo, the lord of your province. From sunrise to sunset, you labor in the fields, tending rice, repairing tools, working until your back aches and your hands split open. And when the harvest comes, most of it is taken. Only a small portion remains for you and your family, and even that is never certain. Sometimes the tax collectors take more than they should. Your back is sore. Your hands are rough, and yet you dare not complain. In this Japan, honor is more important than life. To defy the wrong person is to risk not just your head, but the ruin of your entire family. The cold creeps into your bones. You slide open the wooden door to your hut and step inside. It's dark, lit only by the weak glow of an oil lamp, casting trembling shadows across the walls. Your wife sits at the low table. Your children sleep, curled together beneath a thin blanket. The water in a wooden bowl has already frozen. Tonight's meal is only a thin soup made from scraps of root vegetables. You sit, take the bowl in your hands. The rising steam warms your fingers, but not your heart. Outside in the darkness, you hear the crunch of footsteps. They're steady, heavy. The sound of armor shifting with each movement. You know what that means. A samurai is in the village. Perhaps it's just a patrol. Perhaps he's looking for someone. Perhaps you. The door slides open. The wind rushes in, cold and sharp. The man who steps inside wears armor, made of lacquered iron plates. His expression stern, his hand resting casually on the hilt of his katana. He glances at you only briefly before turning to your wife. A short command. She bows deeply, stands, and disappears into the corner to prepare tea. You don't speak. In samurai Japan, a single careless word to the wrong man can be a death sentence. You keep your eyes low, your hands still. The samurai drinks his tea, says nothing, and leaves just as suddenly as he arrived. The cold lingers in the air long after he's gone, along with the reminder that your life means nothing if it obstructs another's honor. This is the order of the land. Above you is the daimyo, above him the shogun, and at the very top, distant, almost mythical, the emperor. The samurai are the blade of this order, and you are just a farmer living in its shadow. Sometimes you dream of being a samurai yourself, of polished armor, of battlefields, of glory. But deep down you know the truth. Even for them, there is no safety, only a different kind of death. Outside, the wind rattles the walls. You hear bamboo creak in the night, snow sliding from the roof. Tomorrow you will rise early, walk out into the cold, and tend to the empty fields, waiting for the spring planting. And when spring comes, you will plant again, and again, year after year, until your hands can no longer hold a tool. But tonight you are simply awake, listening to the wind, listening to the silence, and somewhere, far away, a drum beats, slow, heavy, like the heart of a land that never sleeps. Morning comes not with sunlight, but with the soft grey of winter. The air is damp, the mist curling through the pine trees as if it's searching for something. Your breath turns white in front of you as you step outside. The village is already stirring. You see old men in worn straw coats, carrying bundles of firewood. Women crouch at the stream, their hands red from the freezing water as they wash rice. Children chase each other between the houses, barefoot, despite the cold, their laughter sharp and short before a mother calls them back. A voice rises, deep, commanding. The village headman stands near the main path, bowing deeply as a group of samurai approach. They wear lamellar armor, dark lacquer catching what little light the sky offers. Each carries a katana and a shorter wakizashi. The way they walk is deliberate. They own the road, the ground, the air. The lead samurai stops and surveys the village. His gaze lingers on you. Your stomach tightens. "Come," he says, his voice calm but leaving no room for refusal. You follow, your eyes lowered. He leads you to the edge of the village, where a small cart stands. Two men are kneeling beside it, their heads bowed so low their foreheads touch the frozen earth. The samurai speaks. "These men have insulted the honor of our lord." He does not explain how. He does not need to. In samurai Japan, offense is not measured by truth, but by the perception of dishonor. And dishonor is paid for with blood. A younger samurai steps forward. His blade flashes. The act is so quick, so practiced, that for a moment you do not understand what has happened. Then you see the red pooling on the ground, steam rising from it in the cold air. The heads are placed carefully in a straw basket, covered with a cloth. There is no wailing, no protest, only silence, as if the earth itself understands that this is the way of things. You stand frozen, the weight of the moment pressing into you. The samurai turn and walk away, leaving you with the understanding that life here is balanced on the edge of a blade. The rest of the day is heavy. You work in the fields, repairing dikes and clearing weeds from the fallow earth. Your hands move automatically, but your mind keeps returning to the scene, to the speed, the finality. There is no appeal, no second chance. The law is not written in scrolls for you to read. It is carried in the steel of the katana. That evening, the village gathers for a small ceremony. A traveling monk has arrived, carrying with him a wooden drum and a bundle of charms. He sits by the fire, speaking softly of the Buddha's compassion, of the wheel of life, of the hope for rebirth in a better world. His voice is steady, but even he knows that in this land, prayers alone cannot keep the sword away. Later, as you return to your home, you pass the samurai's quarters, a larger wooden house at the center of the village. The sound of laughter drifts out into the night. Inside, men sit around a table, drinking sake, their armor piled neatly in the corner. The smell of grilled fish and miso soup fills the air. It is not the life you live. You slip quietly past and back into the cold. Your own home is dark, except for the small flame in the oil lamp. Your wife looks at you, her eyes asking questions you cannot answer. You sit, you eat your plain meal, and you try not to think of the blood on the snow. When you lie down that night, the wind picks up again. Somewhere beyond the hills, a dog barks. You pull your thin blanket tighter and close your eyes. You wonder if tomorrow will be the same, or if the sword will come for you next. The walls of your home are thin, woven from reeds and coated in mud, and every gust of wind pushes through as if it seeks you out. The single oil lamp flickers, casting shadows that sway like restless spirits. Somewhere close, you hear the faint rattle of shutters on a neighbor's house, a rhythmic clatter that blends with the moaning of the wind. Your wife turns in her sleep, murmuring something you can't make out. You envy her, or perhaps fear for her, for having found rest so easily in a world where the ground beneath your feet can shift without warning. Your mind refuses to sleep. It circles back to the morning, to the sudden flash of steel, to the way the men's heads seemed almost peaceful in death. You've seen executions before. Everyone has. But never so close, never with such casual precision. The younger samurai's eyes did not even narrow. To him, it was no more than sharpening a blade or cutting a stalk of bamboo. You imagine what offense those two men might have given: a missed tax payment, an insult whispered within earshot, a refusal to bow deeply enough. In a land ruled by the Bushido code, the boundaries of survival are invisible, shifting with the mood of those who hold power. A loose shutter slams somewhere outside, pulling you from your thoughts. You sit up, listening. There's a new sound now, faint at first, then clearer. The crunch of feet in the frost, hardened earth. More than one set of steps. You freeze. The steps stop outside your door. For a heartbeat, there is only silence. Then a single knock. Not the polite triple tap of a neighbor, but one sharp rap. The kind that announces authority. Your breath catches in your throat. You glance at your wife, who is awake now, eyes wide. Without speaking, you rise and slide the door open just enough to see. Two samurai stand there, silhouettes against the moonlight. The older of the two speaks first. His voice is low, but each word lands like a stone dropped in water. You will come to the headman's house. Now, you bow instinctively, your knees almost buckling, and step outside. The cold bites instantly through your thin robe. As you follow them through the sleeping village, you notice other figures stepping out of their homes, called by other samurai. One by one, they join the silent procession until half the village seems to be moving through the mist. At the headman's house, a lantern burns, casting long golden beams through the fog. Inside, the floor is covered with tatami mats, and at the far end, sitting like an immovable stone, is the local daimyo's representative. He is not armored. His authority does not need steel to be felt. His eyes move slowly over the gathered villagers. "There has been theft," he says, and though his tone is calm, the weight of the word presses down on you like an invisible hand. A rice store has been broken into. Until the guilty are found, no one will leave the village, and if the guilty do not step forward, he lets the sentence hang. The meaning is clear enough. The samurai standing at his side shifts slightly, his hand resting on the hilt of his katana. Your stomach turns. Hunger you can endure, cold you can endure, but the invisible noose tightening around your life, that is harder. The meeting disperses. You walk home in silence, your wife's hand gripping your sleeve. The village feels different now, as though suspicion itself has seeped into the ground. Every shadow looks like it's hiding a watcher. Every glance from a neighbor feels heavier. By the time you return to your pallet, the first gray hints of dawn are brushing the sky. You lie down again, but there is no rest this time. Only the knowledge that, in samurai Japan, the sword does not need to swing to keep you in its grasp. The sun rises without warmth. A pale, washed-out light spreads across the village, revealing roofs dusted with frost and fields that lie hard, and unyielding. The air carries the faint scent of smoke from the headman's house, where the samurai still linger. You rise to fetch water from the well, your breath curling in the cold morning air. The bucket creaks as you lower it, the rope rough against your hands. The sound echoes in the quiet. No one is speaking today. Neighbors pass with lowered eyes, each lost in their own worry. The theft has changed everything. Before, you might have exchanged small nods, quiet greetings. Now, every face is a mask. Some wear fear, others suspicion, a few accusation. You keep your head down, returning home with the water. Inside, your wife sits by the small brazier, trying to coax warmth from its weak embers. She glances up but says nothing. You both know that words can be dangerous. In a land where suspicion spreads faster than fire, even an innocent conversation can be twisted into evidence. By midday, the samurai begin their rounds. They move through the village like shadows given form, stopping at each home, questioning, inspecting. Their voices never rise, but their presence is as sharp as a drawn blade. One of them carries a lacquered box filled with small, wooden tablets. Your neighbor whispers later. Each tablet marks a name, a house. Those who fall under suspicion have their tablet set aside. No one says what happens after that. When they reach your home, you kneel low, forehead touching the mat. Their questions are simple. Where were you on the night of the theft? Did you see anyone? Have you heard rumors? Your answers are truthful and useless. They leave without comment. But the younger one lingers at the door a moment longer, eyes scanning the inside of your home, the cracked walls, the single shelf where your few possessions rest. He says nothing, but you feel as though he has weighed and measured your life in a glance. The days blur together. You work when told, rest when allowed. The investigation continues, but no culprit emerges. Food grows scarcer, the winter has been long, and the theft has made every handful of rice more precious. On the fifth night, the knock comes again. This time, there is no procession. Only you are called. You follow the same path to the headman's house, the same lantern burning, the same tatami mats underfoot. But the room feels colder now. The daimyo's representative sits in silence for a long moment before speaking. You were seen, he says, his voice low, near the rice storehouse. Not on the night of the theft, but close enough. Your mouth opens to protest, but no words come. You cannot remember exactly when you passed the storehouse. Perhaps fetching water. Perhaps heading home from work. It doesn't matter. The samurai step closer. There is no trial. No chance to plead your case. In this world, suspicion is guilt enough. But then, unexpectedly, the older samurai raises a hand. His eyes narrow, studying you. Not him, he says after a long silence, too afraid. The daimyo's man nods once, as though the matter is settled. Then find who is not afraid, he says. You are dismissed. You walk home under a sky heavy with clouds, your legs weak, your breath shallow. You were spared. For now. But the noose remains, invisible yet ever tightening. And as you reach your door, you see it. A mark, painted in red across the wood. A single slash, nothing more. But you know what it means. Someone has decided you are not as innocent as the samurai believe. And in the quiet, hidden justice of the village, that can be far worse. You don't sleep that night. Every creak of the walls, every whisper of the wind feels like a footstep outside your door. The mark on the wood burns in your mind. You imagine eyes in the darkness, watching, waiting. By morning, you almost convince yourself it was nothing. A childish prank, a smear of paint from some careless hand. But when you step outside, you see the same mark on two other doors. Both belong to families you know. One of those families is gone by evening. No one says where they went, and no one asks. Life in the village continues as if nothing has happened. The fields still need tending, the wood still needs chopping, the river still needs to be fished. Yet under every movement, every exchange, there's a weight, like a bowstring drawn too tight. You work in silence. You eat in silence, and when the sun sets, you hurry inside before the streets empty. That night, as you sit beside the weak glow of your brazier, there's a soft tap at your window. You freeze, your hand instinctively reaching for the short knife you keep under the mat. The tapping comes again. 3 times, slow, deliberate. You slide the door open a fraction. A figure stands in the shadows. It's the younger samurai, the one who lingered at your door days ago. His expression is unrateable. "Walk with me," he says. The streets are empty as you follow him. You expect to be led to the headman's house, but instead, he takes you beyond the edge of the village, where the path narrows and the trees close in overhead. When you finally stop, he turns to face you. "There are things you don't understand," he says quietly. "The rice was not stolen by thieves. It was taken." You stare at him, confused. He continues. "Our lord," he grows desperate. "The harvests have been thin, and the shogun demands tribute. Rice is the only coin that matters. The villagers were never meant to know." But someone spoke. Now suspicion spreads, and order is cracking. You ask why he's telling you this. He looks away, his jaw tightening. "Because your name is on a list. I cannot remove it. But I can tell you this, leave before the snow falls again." Before you can reply, he's gone, swallowed by the dark. You return home with your mind spinning. If what he says is true, then the mark on your door is not the work of gossiping neighbors, but something far more dangerous, and the investigation is nothing more than a net, drawing in those the daimyo no longer wishes to feed. The next day, you notice the older samurai watching you from across the market square. He doesn't speak. Doesn't need to. His eyes are enough to remind you that your place in this world is as fragile as the thin ice on the river. 2 nights later, the red mark is gone. In its place is something worse, a folded slip of paper, tucked into the doorframe. You unfold it with shaking hands. 3 characters, brushed in black ink, yeah. The night comes. From that moment on, you live with the constant sense that every day is your last. When you work in the fields, you glance toward the tree line, half expecting armored figures to emerge. When you walk to the well, you scan the faces around you, searching for some sign of betrayal. Even the wind through the bamboo sounds like whispers you cannot understand. On the 5th morning, a rider appears on the road. Not the daimyo's men, but a lone figure, his armor scuffed, his banner torn. He rides straight through the village without stopping, his eyes fixed ahead. Hours later, the younger samurai is gone. No one saw him leave, but his absence hangs in the air, like a missing piece of a puzzle you can't quite solve. That night, you think of what he told you. Leave before the snow falls again. You wonder if it's already too late. The air feels heavy, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Outside, the wind snakes through the cracks in the walls, carrying the faint smell of wood smoke from distant houses. Every now and then, the beams above you groan, shifting under their own age. You listen to the sounds. The occasional pop of the cooling firewood, the faint scratching of some unseen rodent, the muffled cough of the old man who sleeps 2 mats away. You tell yourself you'll sleep, but the words won't leave your mind. Before the snow falls again. How much time does that mean? Days. Hours. You think of the mountains that loom beyond the village. Their peaks already white. Snow will come early this year. You've felt it in the air for weeks. When your eyes close, the darkness behind your eyelids blooms with images, the rider's silhouette against the fading light, the glint of his blade, the unsettling way his gaze lingered. You had not thought much of it at first. Just another warrior passing through. But now you feel like a thread has been tied from him to you, and every passing moment pulls it tighter. You shift on your mat, turning toward the thin wall. Beyond it lies the dirt road, the well, the old cherry tree whose leaves are long gone. In the moonlight, you imagine the tree's bare branches like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. A gust rattles the shutters, and for a heartbeat, you hear something else. A faint, deliberate crunch of snow outside. You freeze. Your breath halts in your chest. It comes again, slower this time. Footsteps. You want to get up to look, but your body refuses to move. Then, silence. No wind, no creak of wood, no distant voices. Just stillness. When at last you dare to rise, the night feels colder. You slide the door open a fraction and peer out. Nothing. Just the empty street, pale under the moon. And yet there in the dirt, at the edge where frost begins, is the faint imprint of a boot. By morning, it's gone, covered by a thin, fresh dusting of snow that fell without you hearing it. The village is hushed, the way it gets before a storm. People move quickly, speaking in low voices. The old woman who sells miso paste doesn't look up when you pass. Children don't run in the road. Something is being felt, even if no one says it aloud. You go to the well for water, but your eyes keep straying toward the forest path. That's where it would come from. Anything, anyone. Bandits, soldiers, or the rider. The trees stand like a wall, dark and unmoving. Midday comes and goes without incident. You help mend a roof, haul firewood, tend the few surviving vegetables in the garden, but the sky darkens sooner than it should, and the wind turns sharp. Somewhere to the north, you hear the dull, distant beat of a drum. No one else seems to hear it. Or maybe they choose not to. That evening, as you carry a bundle of sticks back to the house, you stop at the edge of the road. The snow has begun to fall again, thin, swirling flakes that vanish on your sleeves. And there, far down the path, you see a shape. Just a shape. Unmoving. Watching. You blink, and it's gone. Inside, the firelight does little to warm you. The old man speaks of the harvest years ago, of winters when wolves came down from the hills. But his voice feels far away. Your mind is elsewhere. On the imprint of that boot. On the way the air seemed to still when the shape appeared. On the fact that the snow is already here, and you have not left. Later, lying down again, you pull your blanket tight, though it does nothing against the chill. You listen for footsteps, for the sound of a horse, for the beat of that distant drum. You tell yourself you will rise before dawn, that you will leave, no matter the cost. But as your eyes close, the last thing you hear is the slow, deliberate sound of breathing, and you can't tell if it's yours. You wake before the sun, though wake isn't the right word. You haven't truly slept. The air inside your small room is cold enough to cloud your breath, and the embers in the brazier have long since gone dark. The village outside is still. No roosters, no early voices, just the faint whisper of snow as it falls. Endless, soft, soundless. You sit there for a long moment, unsure if you should move at all. You'd told yourself you'd leave before dawn, And yet now that the moment has come, your feet feel anchored to the mat. You think of the forest path, of the unseen eyes that might watch from its shadows. You think of the rider, and you think of the old man's voice last night, weaving stories of wolves and harsher winters. Finally, you move. You gather what little you own: a fraying blanket, a pair of worn sandals, the knife you keep tucked under your bedding. The room feels smaller than it ever has, as if the walls have drawn closer in the night. When you slide open the door, the world is white, not the soft, romantic white of paintings or poems, but a heavy, smothering blanket that swallows all color and muffles every sound. The rooftops sag under its weight. The path through the village is barely visible. You step out, your sandals crunching softly. Every sound feels louder than it should. The creak of wood, the shifting snow, your own breathing. You tell yourself not to look toward the forest, but your eyes betray you. It's empty. For now, you walk slow at first, then faster. Past the well, past the frozen stream where children once played. You do not see anyone. You wonder if they are still sleeping, or if they too have decided not to leave their homes this morning. At the far edge of the village, the snow is deeper. The path to the forest looms ahead, the dark trees blurring into a wall of shadow. You pause at the boundary, every instinct urging you to turn back. But you remember the words, before the snow falls again. It already has. You take a step. The cold is sharper here, the silence heavier. Every branch above holds a crown of snow, and when one lets go, it falls with a muted thud that makes you flinch. You keep your eyes forward, but you can't shake the sense that you're being drawn deeper, as if the path itself is guiding you. Minutes stretch into something longer. Time loses meaning in the white haze. Your hands are numb, your feet ache, and then a sound. Soft, almost nothing. A hoof in snow. You freeze, heart pounding so hard you can hear it in your ears. The forest is too quiet. The trees ahead are still. And yet you feel it, that same invisible thread pulling taut. Another sound, closer, deliberate, slow. You turn your head, but the white swallows everything. For a moment, you think you've imagined it, until the shape emerges. At first, it is only an outline, vague and wavering through the snow. Then it resolves. A horse, black as ink against the white. A rider, cloaked, unmoving, watching. The distance between you is not great, but it feels immeasurable. You cannot see the rider's face beneath the hood, but you feel the weight of his gaze like a hand pressing on your chest. You take a step back. The rider does not move. Another step. Still nothing. Your breath quickens, but you force your legs to turn. You walk away, slow at first, then faster. The forest around you blurs into streaks of white and black. When you glance back, the rider is gone. The path ahead seems different now, unfamiliar though you've walked it before. Branches hang lower, snow piles higher. You don't know how far you've come, or how far remains. When you finally see the break in the trees, relief floods you. Until you realize it's not the village. It's something else entirely. An open clearing ringed with standing stones, their surfaces etched with symbols you do not know. Snow has gathered thick around them, but the stones themselves are bare, as if the snow dares not cling. At the center stands a wooden post. From it hangs a strip of cloth, tattered and frozen. You feel the pull again. That invisible thread, and in that moment, you know the rider brought you here. Whether by design or something older, deeper, you cannot say. The wind shifts, and with it, a sound rises. Not the drum from before. This is softer, almost like a whisper. But there are no words, only the steady, inhuman rhythm of breath. You do not wait to see more. Turning, you run. The snow grabs at your legs, the cold burns your lungs, but you keep moving. The forest seems to bend around you, branches clawing at your clothes. Somewhere far behind, you think you hear the sound of hooves again, but you don't dare look back. When you break from the trees at last, the village is there, distant, quiet, waiting. You stagger forward, heart pounding, breath ragged. And though you do not see the rider again that day, you know he will return. Because the snow has only just begun. That night, the snow falls heavier. It comes in slow, fat flakes at first, drifting lazily past the eaves, then quickens into a steady, endless curtain. By the time you've barred the door and set what little wood you have by the hearth, the village is buried in silence. You sit by the fire, staring into the coals. The warmth is faint, but better than the cold creeping through the walls. You try to tell yourself the rider was just a man, another traveler. But no man waits in a forest that way, unmoving. No man leads another to places that shouldn't be found. Your thoughts keep circling back to the clearing, to those standing stones, the way the snow avoided them, the way the air felt there, heavy, like it was watching you. A soft knock at the door. You startle, nearly dropping the log you were holding. No one knocks here at night. No one comes calling in this cold. The knock comes again, slower this time. You move to the door, every muscle tense, and call out. No answer. Only the muffled hiss of falling snow. When you slide the door open, the wind rushes in, bringing a flurry of flakes. No one is there. But something is. A small bundle sits in the snow just beyond the threshold, wrapped in cloth. You glance around the empty street, the snow already erasing footprints. With a reluctant hand, you pick up the bundle and close the door fast. Inside, you set it on the table. The cloth is stiff with frost. You peel it back. Coins. Not the crude iron tokens of the village, but silver, stamped with a crest you do not know. And something else. A strip of leather, cracked and worn, too short to be a belt. There are markings on it, faded by time, but you can't make them out in the flicker of the firelight. You wrap it up again, your hands trembling. Whoever left this knew where you lived, knew you were awake. You push the bundle aside, though your eyes keep drifting toward it. Hours pass. The fire burns low. You lie on your mat, staring at the rafters. Sleep does not come easily. Every creak of wood, every sigh of wind, makes you think of the rider, of the clearing, of the coins on your table. When you finally does, your dreams are strange. You are walking through the snow, but the trees above are gone. The sky is a deep, endless black, pierced by pale lights that do not move. You hear footsteps behind you, but cannot turn your head. You walk and walk until you reach the standing stones again. Only now they are lit from below, a circle of fireless light. The rider stands within them, waiting. You wake with a start, your breath sharp in the cold. The fire is out. The window is rimed with frost, but the sound you heard in your dream is still there. Footsteps, slow, crunching, moving past your door. You do not breathe. You do not move. The steps fade into the distance. At dawn, the snow has stopped. The world is pale and still, the air sharp enough to sting your lungs. You step outside, the frost biting at your toes through the thin sandals. The street is empty, no tracks, no sign that anyone walked here in the night. Except, in the center of the path, just far enough that you would not notice from your doorway, lies another bundle. This one is smaller. Inside there is no coin, only a single glove. Leather, stained dark. You look down the street, toward the forest's edge, and for a moment you think you see a shape there. Tall, cloaked, still, watching. You blink, and the shape is gone. Not gone in the way a man walks away, his cloak vanishing among the trees. Gone in the way smoke thins into the air, as if it had never been there at all. The glove feels heavier in your hand now. The leather is cracked at the seams, but the inside is warm. You turn it over, searching for some mark or stitching that could tell you who it belongs to, but there's nothing. Only that faint, lingering warmth, as though the owner had just taken it off. You don't put it on. You don't want to. Instead, you wrap it in cloth and hide it under the floorboards, beside the coins. But as you cover them, you can't shake the thought that maybe they're not meant to be hidden. The day passes slowly. Snow crunches underfoot as you walk to the well, and every sound feels too loud, as though the air itself is listening. The villagers go about their work, heads bowed against the cold, speaking little. If they've noticed the same unease that crawls through your bones, they don't show it. By afternoon, clouds have rolled in again, heavy and low. The sun becomes a pale smear behind the grey. You chop wood until your hands ache, more for the sound than the warmth it will bring. When night falls, the snow returns. Thick, relentless. You light a small fire, listening to the hiss of snow against the shutters. You try to eat. A thin broth with scraps of root vegetables. But the taste turns to ash in your mouth. The memory of the rider lingers behind your eyes, waiting for the moment you close them. And then another knock. You freeze. It's softer this time. 3 slow taps. You move to the door, your breath held tight in your chest. No answer when you call out, just the wind. When you slide the door open, a blast of cold shoves against you. Snow swirls into the room. Nothing. No one. Only a third bundle. You bring it inside without thinking, shutting the door fast. The cloth is damp with melted snow, but not frozen. Inside is a single object, a small wooden carving. It's rough but deliberate, a figure in a hooded cloak, its face hidden, holding what looks like a staff or spear. The wood is blackened at the edges, as though it had been pulled from a fire. You set it on the table and step back, staring at it. The flames in the hearth cast long shadows, making the little figure look as though it's moving, its hood dipping toward you. The wind outside rises, rattling the shutters. Somewhere far off, a wolf cries. That night, your dreams come faster. You stand once more in the clearing with the standing stones. Snow falls here too, but the flakes never touch the ground. They vanish in the air, melting into nothing before they land. The rider is there again, but closer this time. You still cannot see his face, his voice. If it is a voice, comes like a whisper in the bones, not in the ears. You are already walking the path. You try to speak, to ask what he means, but no sound comes. Your mouth moves, your throat strains, but nothing escapes. He turns, stepping backward into the stones, and then he is gone. The dream breaks. You wake to darkness and silence. The fire has burned to embers. You listen, waiting for the creak of a rafter, the sigh of the wind. Anything to tell you the world is still here. But instead, you hear footsteps. Close, right outside your wall, slow, deliberate. You stand, every muscle rigid, and move toward the door without meaning to. You stop only when your hand touches the latch. The steps fade, swallowed by the snow. You wait. Minutes pass. Maybe hours. You don't open the door. When dawn comes, you step outside. Snow blinds you with its brightness. There are no tracks in the street. Only one thing waits for you, pressed into the snow in front of your door. A symbol. A circle of 3 lines etched deep into the ice. You do not know what it means. But you know it was left for you. And somewhere, hidden beyond the veil of snow and silence, the rider watches still. You crouch over the mark, breath ghosting in the cold. The lines are clean, cut with something sharper than any stick. Not a prank. Not a child's idle sketch. A sign, left with care, left with time. You brush snow from the edges, but the grooves are deeper than they look, the ice polished as if by a gloved thumb. You glance up, half expecting to catch the watcher mid-step, cloak vanishing around a corner. The street is a painting, still, framed in white, unblinking. You cover the symbol with your heel and grind it flat. It feels like an act of defiance. It feels like nothing at all. The day moves in dull motions. Firewood. Water. The weak heat of a brazier that asks for more than it gives. The village has learned to speak in glances. No one asks about the bundles. No one admits to hearing knocks. Yet shutters close earlier than before, and even the dogs seem to pad lighter, as if careful not to wake something that sleeps under the snow. By afternoon, clouds lower until they kiss the roofs. The sky is not a color so much as a weight. Somewhere far off, a temple bell counts the hours. Here, time is measured by how quickly the light fades from the paper screens. You sort the hidden things, coins, the glove, the blackened carving, then slide the floorboard back, slow, as if the wood itself might cry out. You tell yourself you're being cautious. It feels like you are burying offerings. You mean to eat. You do not. Hunger sharpens the edges of thought until they cut. Night falls like a door closing. There is no knock this time, no deliberate rhythm. Only a change in the silence. A slight thinning, like breath drawn on the other side of a wall. You sit with your back to the post and count. Not numbers, not seconds. Just the steady beat beneath your ribs. When your own pulse becomes too loud to bear, you stand. The door slides on its track with a dry whisper. Snow drifts in, feather, light, and settles on the mat at your feet. The street is empty, but the emptiness feels shaped, intentional, the way a seat at a table is empty. Waiting. At the well, a shape resolves from the dark, a length of wood laid across the rim. Your lamp throws a trembling circle over it, another carved figure, twin to the first. Hooded, face hidden. You lift it with both hands. Warmth blooms against your palms. Enough, you whisper, though to whom, you cannot say. A breath moves behind you, close enough to stir the lamp's flame. You turn so fast the oil sloshes. Snow. Wind. A blank road. But the lamp smokes now, wick choking, and in the guttering light you notice something scratched into the well's coping. 3 lines again, circling. This time joined by a 4th, crossing through like a blade. You do not sleep. Dawn finds you sitting with your back to the door, the lamp a cold bead of resin at your knee, the 2 carvings facing each other on the table like monks at prayer. When the village wakes, it does so with a flinch. Smoke rises. Rice boils. People move as if every task has weight. You carry water because your body remembers how. You make a fire because your hands know the steps. The mind wanders to the places it has learned to avoid. By midday, the headman's runner passes, short breath steaming. Meeting, he says, and doesn't add please. The house is crowded, mats creaking under knees. The daimyo's man sits where he always sits, hands folded. Face carved from quiet. The older samurai stands behind him, the younger one's absence ringing like a note you can't unhear. Our Lord sends word, the steward says. Bandits in the district. Tribute wagons will take the north road. Each village will provide guards. He lets the words sink. names will be drawn. You do not pray. You have learned that prayer gets mistaken for preference. The little cedar box comes out, heavy with lots. One by one, names are pulled, each syllable an arrow. Your neighbor bows, face smooth. The miller's son swallows hard, and then pretends he did not. Your name is called last. A sound escapes you, too small to be protest, too honest to be nothing. You bow, forehead to mat. The room tilts. That night, you lay out the things you will take on the road rag. Wrapped sandals, a loop of cord, a blade you've sharpened to a patient edge. You add neither coin nor carving to your bundle. You tell yourself it is because weight matters. You know it is because you cannot bear to choose. The snow relents by morning, not from mercy, but because there is only so much sky can hold at once. The road north is a white ribbon bruised by cart ruts. 6 of you walk alongside the low, walled wagons, spears at your shoulders, the steward riding ahead under a banner that announces both loyalty and wealth to anyone with eyes. Pines stipple the slopes, crows punctuate the branches. The world feels hollowed, sound swallowed before it can echo. Your feet find the old rhythm, step, breath, balance, until the motion itself becomes a thoughtless prayer. At the pass, wind knifes unchecked. The lead wagon lurches, the steward raises his hand, and the small caravan stills with a creak and a sigh. Silence expands. You hear it first. Not hooves, not wheels. Something softer, a felted sound, like a sleeve brushing lacquer. The older samurai lifts his head as if scenting rain. His hand finds the katana's guard and rests there, not gripping, as though the sword might leap of its own accord. "Show yourself," he says, and the words go out like heat into snow. A figure steps from the trees, and the cold becomes articulate. Cloak. Hood. A horse the color of night. Behind him, 5 more shapes, evenly spaced, not men and not. Men their silhouettes as spare as brush strokes. They do not breathe steam. The steward tries to speak, realizes he has to find his voice first, and then thus. These wagons travel under the seal of. The rider's gloved hand lifts a fraction. The steward's sentence falls apart in the air like ash. He moves through the snow the way a thought moves. No labor, only decision. When he stops before the lead wagon, the horse lowers its head as if to drink, though there is nothing to drink from but white. The older samurai steps forward, blade still sheathed. "Name yourself," he says, and you hear the choice inside the formality live. "If you can." The rider does not answer. He turns his hood toward you. You do not move. You do not breathe. Something in your chest remembers an old fear, an old posture. He reaches into his cloak and withdraws a strip of white cloth, bound with red thread. He holds it as one might hold a question. He does not offer it to the samurai. He offers it to you. Your hand rises without asking your permission. The cloth is warm. "No," the older samurai says, "not to you," and steps between. Steel leaves wood, with a sound that is less a note than a meaning. The rider's head tilts, a slow, bird-like calibration. The 5 shadows behind him pivot in perfect unison, not advancing, not retreating, only turning the idea of their faces toward the blade. The steward tries command. "Stand down." The words shatter against the slope. You expect the blow to be a clean, bright thing. It is not. It is a refusal. The rider's hand does not go to his sword, because there is no sword to go to. There is only stillness, and then there is distance where there had been none, and the older samurai is on one knee. Snow caving under him, the lacquer of his scabbard hoarfrosted, as if a winter had passed in a heartbeat. No blood, no wound. Only age, laid on him like a cloak. He exhales and stands again, more carefully. His eyes, when he looks at you, are not angry. They are a warning. Go back, he says, not to the rider. The steward finds courage's shadow, form ranks. But the men hear the instruction and cannot convince their legs to agree. Even the oxen keep still, their breath a steady white. The rider lowers his hand. The 5 shadows lower theirs. Snow begins to fall again. Slow, deliberate, the kind of snow that counts. He turns his horse with the quiet of a page turning. As he passes you, the red, threaded cloth stirs in your grip, a heat that is not fire. Soon, he does not say, and yet you hear it. The figures dissolve into trees that have decided, for once, to keep what they take. No one speaks until the steward remembers how. He says words like bandits, and report, and tribute, and the men repeat them because something has to be repeated, because the air must be filled with noise before fear decides it owns the place. You walk. The red thread marks your palm. By dusk, the village roofs appear like islands. The wagons roll in. People emerge. Normalcy is set out like a meal too small for the table. You help unload sacks that look heavier than they should and feel lighter than they are. When you are alone, you unwrap the cloth. Inside is not coin, not a charm. A sliver of wood, blackened at the edges. A third carving, not hooded. A figure kneeling, hands resting on thighs. Waiting. You set it between the other 2. The 3 look at one another in silence that feels chosen. Winter lengthens its spine. Days come shaved thin and leave before they've said their names. Rumor lays eggs in the warm corners of rooms, the youngest samurai seen on the South Road. Alone, a shrine where the snow refuses to melt, a monastery bell that rings without monks. You keep the carvings where your eye can find them and your hand cannot. The glove stays under the board. The coins sleep like moons. On a morning so clear it rings, you hear the bell, not temple. Not warning. A single, clean note from nowhere you can point to. The old man lifts his head and blinks like someone remembering a name. "Aye," he says to no one. So that's the way of it. What way? You ask, surprised to hear your own voice. He smiles without showing teeth. The road comes to those who refuse it, same as the sea to those who won't swim. He taps his chest with a finger knotted like root. When it wants a walker, it makes one. You carry that sentence as though it were a loaded bowl. You set it down carefully when you work. You pick it up at night and hold it in the dark. The next snowfall begins with a hush you've learned to recognize. You step outside and stand under it, letting the first flakes find your face. For once, you do not look toward the forest for the shape you expect. You look at the road. You know the measure of your steps now. You know where fear ends and the path begins. When the knock comes, 2 slow taps, a pause, a third. You open the door before it lands. No figure waits, only the air made specific. You do not take a bundle. You do not take coin. You slide the carvings into your sleeve one by one, gentle as laying a child to sleep. You pull the door closed until the latch finds itself, then lift it again 1/2 an inch, the way you always have when you think you might come back. Soon. The snow receives your feet the way a page receives ink. The road receives your shadow. Somewhere ahead, not far and not near, a horse breathes. You walk. The village shrinks behind you without malice. The trees open. The standing stones keep their pact with winter and remain bare. The clearing accepts you without telling you so. He is there. He has always been there. You stop an arm's length away, close enough to see frost feather the leather of his glove, close enough to see that there is nothing to see where a face would be. only the shape of a space where a face might once have chosen to be. You lift your sleeve and place the 3 figures on the snow in a line. They do not sink. Something like approval passes through the air. Too gentle to be wind, too exact to be accident. You kneel because your body knows to. Your hands find your thighs because the carving has taught them. Your breath finds a rhythm that does not belong to you. The red thread warms against your wrist and then, slowly, cools. When you stand, the rider turns his horse not away from you, not past you, but toward the place where the road becomes more road. He does not look back to see if you follow. Beyond the snow, beyond the dark, beyond the edge of everything you think you know, the path makes room. You take 1 step, and then the next. The world does not end. It only grows quieter, and in that quiet you hear, at last, the simple thing he has been saying all along. Walk. And you do.